Hi, welcome to NetBee Invest. Today I'll be talking about this small cap Australian company called Alexium, and I'll be talking about why I want this company to succeed. Especially towards the end of the video, I'll get into one of the announcements released 2 months ago and has personal applications for my life that I just want this technology to happen because I think it would be amazing. So maybe selfishly, I want this company to succeed. I have put a little bit of money, not a lot of money, into Alexium, and that's just more of a hope of wanting this technology to just take off because it is amazing. So I'll get that towards the end of the video. But first of all, what does Alexium do? So Alexium, they are a chemical company that specializes in two things, and that's flame retardants and thermal regulation. So when I first heard about Alexium about 7 or 8 years ago, they were mostly concerned with flame retardants because traditionally flame retardants have been quite toxic, based mostly off bromine, that sort of thing, and they can be quite toxic. So if you have a couch that has a bromine-based flame retardant on it, that's not the best of news. So they are thinking about the health benefits for us at large, and that's not a bad thing at all. So that's their traditional sort of specialization. They've branched off into thermal regulation through the last 3 or 4 years, and that's actually where they're bringing in their revenue right now in the thermal regulation. I'll get into that in a second. And that's also the area where I have the most interest, the personal interest with their thermal regulation. So you can think of thermal regulation as technology where it helps to cool your body down if it's hot. That's the main application for it. When you sleep or possibly when you run is where I want the technology to come through. So first of all, I will talk about thermal regulation. So the thermal regulation, they're starting to bring in some revenue with this, and mostly to do with bedding and mattresses. So you can think of mattress cooling as simply as this, and I know this firsthand because when I bought a mattress a few years ago, one of the things I was looking at was that sort of technology where when you lie down on the mattress, you can just feel it cooling or a cool touch, and that's becoming very popular in the mattress sector. And I'm pretty sure that research has shown that if you get a mattress that is able to cool or regulate your body temperature as it sleeps or trying to get to sleep, that will help you sleep longer, get better sleep, better quality sleep, that sort of thing. So moving forward, I think there is a potential for some growth there, and that's where they're starting to bring in some revenue as they do have a relationship with a mattress company called Certa. Onto flame retardants. So they do still have a bit of flame retardant things going on with their bedding, and it has to do with the foam mattresses. So foam mattresses need this sock, and it needs to be flame retardant as well. So a bit of addressable market there. But the other two areas, the general and military side of the flame retardants, which is actually the product's called Alexium. There is a fair bit of addressable market there. They've had a relationship with the military for quite a few years, and I think that relationship is slowly moving forward. It's a very slow process. I think first heard about this 6 or 7 years ago, and it's still going. They hope to address this or bring in some revenue with this in a few years' time, but I'm not holding my breath here. It could be quite a few years. So there's a lot of potential here with the Alexium. Not bringing any revenue yet with the Alexium, but I think there is potential. We'll see some revenue growth in the next few years. One of the things I like to see is a company showing what their goals are to the shareholders or the market. And so they're very forthright or they're very transparent with their goals and whether they can achieve their goals or not achieve their goals. I don't mind a company if they don't achieve their goals because it shows, just having those goals shows they're thinking about the future, thinking about the potential, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, one of the goals they missed this financial year was just the revenue growth. But if they can achieve some of those financial objectives in the next few years, especially the sustainable EBITDA and cash flow positive, if they can achieve that, no doubt the share price will start going up and will start to bring some value to the long-suffering shareholders. And when I show you the chart, you can see how they're long-suffering. So just the fact they've got these goals written down, being forthright, being transparent is probably the main thing here. I like to see this with management teams. So here we're just looking at their products and the revenue realization of these products. So of course with Alexium, we're already starting to see revenue come into the company, and over the next 1 or 2 years we should see Alexium sort of revenue streams come to fruition, and that's the ambitions of the management, and hopefully those ambitions come to fruition. And I think if those do come to fruition, we'll see multiple revenue streams coming into the business. And I really like to see multiple revenue streams, because if one of those revenue streams is disrupted in some way, you still got these other revenue streams coming in. So right now, most of the revenue is coming through Alexium, and if that's some way disrupted, they will be hurt quite a bit. So hopefully these ambitions by management are not too hard to achieve, because I think once they start to bring in these revenues, we'll see the inflection point hit, and always the inflection point is where you see largest or greatest share price growth. So next one, I want to talk about their financials, and I've been following Alexium for many years, so going back 7 years here or so. I've just been writing down their cash receipts, so nothing initially for the first 2 years when I was taking notice of Alexium, and then we saw rapid cash receipt growth from October 15 all the way to July 17. And that's to do with the previous management teams were obsessed with revenue growth over margins. So they were just highly obsessed with just any sort of revenue, even if it was a very low quality revenue. When I talk about low quality revenue, it's just really low margins. So maybe 1%, 2% margins, that sort of thing. We saw that sort of not work, and we've seen a couple of changes in management since then, and new management is driving, they're more interested in the higher margins. So gross margins are greater than 30%. I think it was 38% last time I looked, and they wanted to achieve or see gross margins are greater than 30% moving forward. Probably the main concern here, we did see a bit of a revenue tick up during 2019, but we've seen in the last few quarters that revenue or cash receipts started to slip off a little bit. So I'd like to see that grow or start growing. That will be a good sign of this company moving forward. So even though I'm a shareholder, I may have got into a little bit too quickly with Alexium, just based off their cash receipts the last few quarters. And hopefully, and I know being hopeful for a company is not a good thing, it's more gambling than investing, but hopefully we'll start to see those cash receipts moving forward. And it's the main reason I just put a small amount in initially, just because I'm just interested in this company, what the technology, which I'll show in a second. And if they do start to succeed with their cash receipts moving forward, I might start to put a little bit more money into the company. Next, I'm going to look at the 5-year chart here. So a couple of charts, not a very sexy looking good chart here. In fact, it's a downright ugly chart. So unfortunately, if you're a long-term shareholder, it's not been good news being Alexium shareholder over the past 5 years. It did reach a high just before this period, about $1.10, I think their high was in 2015, and just seeing the share price drop down. You see, remember the previous chart of cash receipts, we did see the revenue or cash receipt growth through 2016-17. Now it corresponded to actually a decrease in share price. So the market wasn't really buying into these increasing cash receipts. And then when they changed management teams, that sort of thing, the share price just went off a cliff from 60 cents all the way down to about 10 cents in 2017 and started 2018. It's started to form a base, looks like, over the past year or so, or trying to form a base. There was a capital raising, I'll get into that next slide, in November 2019, which was very helpful. And since then, it's formed a bit of a base. And usually when a company's share price forms a bit of a base, there is potential for that to see it start to go up again, especially if there's good financial news. So the next chart I'm going to show you is the 1-year financial, 1-year share price chart. Got two things marked here. Capital raising in November, I think it was November 27, 2019. There's a few things that got me interested with that capital raising. And that capital raising, I forgot what price it was, but it was fairly low, like 6 cents or so, maybe a little bit less than that, but around 6 cents. Did see the share price get to a low of about 3 cents during the peak of the COVID-19 market panic. And since then, it's recovered nicely, as most companies have. And a bit of a shift in sentiment, especially around that phone-on announcement. And I'll get into that announcement soon. That's the actually announcement that really got me interested. And there was a lot of excitement with that announcement. And we've seen a bit of a shift in sentiment. 6 cents, it looks like it's a bit of a support line, support price. If it gets below 6 cents, that'll be quite bearish. And then if it gets above about 8 cents, that'll be quite bullish. And I think a lot of this is going to be dependent on the next few quarters, the cash receipts. If it starts moving up, if they get to become cash flow positive anytime in the next 2 or 3 quarters, that would be quite bullish for the share price as well. So first thing I want to talk about is their November 2019 capital raising. So it brought in about $22.3 million. I'm not sure if it exactly brought in that amount. That's how much they were hoping for. The second point here is they retired a lot of debt, very high interest debt. So 13.2 million Australian dollars. I think they were servicing that debt. I think it was costing them $150,000 a month to service that debt, which is a fair bit when you think about it. So that's per quarter, that's almost $500,000 per quarter. So getting rid of that debt means they're better off by $500,000 a quarter. Even though this was highly dilutive to current shareholders, I think it was a benefit because as a going concern, it brought more better probability. This Alexium was more likely it was going to be moving forward. There was not this debt that was sort of was a bit of a problem for them. So it's released that problem. The first point here, I've got Collington Capital Partners joined or brought some money into the company, and that was actually fairly bullish for me and fairly promising. $10.85 million in equity and convertible notes. I'll talk about Collington Partners in a second. And the main thing was that Simon Moore joined the ASX board, and that was fairly exciting. So Simon Moore, he's a highly respected investor in the Australian circle. For about a decade, he did lead the Australian division of the Carlyle Group, which is, just Google Carlyle Group, and they're fairly highly thought of. And so he's highly thought of in the investment circles. So I actually didn't know about Simon Moore before he joined the board. And when I saw that, it did pique my interest in Alexium a little bit. Collington Capital Partners, so this is directly from their website. So they do have some investment criteria. One of the interesting things here is one of the attributes they look for a company is positive earnings and greater than $10 million in EBITDA. So Alexium doesn't actually fit into that. So maybe Collington just thinks they're going to achieve that soon, and they've got the potential to achieve that, and they just want to get in early. Or maybe it was just too good value, the previous capital raising, to move into it. So the fact that Collington Capital Partners has brought an interest into Alexium is sort of a validation of where Alexium is moving or headed. So this is the announcement that really got me interested. This perpetual cooling technology called Phonon. And the main thing here is, look down the bottom here, adaptive responsive cooling. The hotter a person gets, the more actively the Phonon product works to cool them. So one of my other passions in life is running, and especially if you're running in Brisbane during the summer, the hot season where it gets really nasty, humid. You just sweat a lot, you get really hot, that sort of thing. And the hotter a person gets, the more actively their products works to cool them. This just sounds amazing. I know if something sounds amazing, it doesn't mean it's going to have to be, it's not going to necessarily work. And even though this technology does sound amazing, has a lot of potential, it doesn't mean it's going to succeed in commercializations, because who knows how much it would cost to put this on a shirt or something. So it does sound really intriguing for me, and I'm really hoping Alexium succeeds with this, because this would maybe not change my life or change a runner's life, but it would make running a little bit easier during those hard months where it gets fairly hot. So my take on Alexium, so this is a very high risk investment. So I'll just put a little bit into it, and if they become less risky, I might put a little bit more as they become cash flow positive. I'll put a little bit in there, become profitable, a little bit in there, have some revenue growth, put a little bit more. So this would be where you just add a little bit more as they start to achieve their goals. So they have been profitable, and the tumultuous 5 years just to do with the management. Hopefully, they seem to have a much better management team in there now. Colleton Capital Partners has sort of a positive endorsement of Alexium, just the fact that they've bought into it. I think that's a good sign moving forward. They have built up good reputation and goodwill with CERTA and US military. They've had a relationship with US military for many years, and they have intriguing product and potential. Just talking about phone on, and that for me is probably one of the most intriguing products and potential I've seen do with my personal life for quite a while. The most important thing is management needs to monetize the potential. So many companies out there have this potential to be amazing, great, they have this technology, but just because they have the technology, the hardest step moving forward is taking that technology and monetizing it. And Alexium is starting to do that, especially with their Lexicool, but they need to monetize the potential of everything else moving forward. And Dr. Paul Stenson joined the board in June 2020, so he has extensive experience in R&D and commercializing products for chemical companies, big chemical companies around the world. And I think he's specialized in fire retardants. So that's a good sort of sign that they're thinking about commercializing their fire retardants or flame retardants moving forward. So that's another very small thing that's sort of not piqued my interest, but sort of validates my interest in Alexium. So overall, I've taken a small interest in this company. So if they fail, that's okay. If they succeed, this could be a massive multi-bagger moving forward, say 5, 10, 20 years or so. So that's all for today. Hope you've enjoyed this video on Alexium, and hopefully they succeed with their phone technology for just the selfish reasons there. If you do, I'm not a financial advisor, so if you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out a professional, and make sure you subscribe to my channel, or maybe check out one of my other videos, which I'll put here, link here somewhere. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.